maiden resource inferred demonstrates about 45 million pounds of cobalt in the ground on a first pass. And I think there's the tonnage potential either as a pit and even as an underground. This is what's kind of unique. A couple of high-grade zones, disseminated cobalt around it.
Well, Trent, first cobalt, you are the next cobalt supplier, hopefully in the US and Canada. What have you got there?
Well, it's been a fun year and a half. We haven't been around that long, 18 months. First transaction we did, we brought together three companies, three-way merger in the Cobalt Camp in Canada. And we aggregated half of Canada's oldest historic mining district, 50 past producing silver mines that had a lot of cobalt. We also acquired a refinery as part of that transaction. More recently, we got ourselves into America, into the US with our flagship asset now in Idaho. It had been worked upon in the 70s and 80s by the Noranda Mining Company. And here we are with our maiden resource, 1 month old, and it feels like we're a whole new company.
Fantastic. So let's start with the refinery, because I think this refinery is very unique, right?
Yeah, it is. So when you look at where is cobalt from, it's mined primarily in the DRC, and it's primarily refined in China, and that's the axis. That's where the EV world turns to for its cobalt. North America, U.S. biggest car market in the world, doesn't have any refining. They don't have mining. They don't have refining. This is the only permitted refinery on the North American continent.
How old is the refinery?
It's only 20 years old. That's pretty new for facilities.
Oh, that's good.
Care and maintenance now for 3 years, and so we did 3 studies to look at what a restart might look like so we can actually get production on the continent to service the U.S. industry.
So that would be like an early cash flow scenario for your company, because you are like an explorer by now, by definition I would call it, but this refinery might be something like a game changer, booster, however you want to name that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the one hand, you could view it as vertical integration. We got the mining potential as well as the refining, but to me, I view this as a means to an end. What we have in Idaho is truly, truly special, having looked around the world at cobalt deposits. So this, to me, is our opportunity to generate some early cash flow and meaningful cash flow for a junior, and hopefully, as we get this started, fund our way right to a commercial decision on Idaho. And so the idea would be to restart this and view this as a means to an end. You could joint venture it, you could even sell it, but I think having done 3 studies, one on the permitting and timeline to a restart, which we've concluded is 18 to 24 months. The other is on the capital and whatnot for a restart, 25 million US, call it 30 million with working capital, good operating margins. And the third is a market study. Where does the cobalt come from? And so all of that has come together again quite recently, just a couple of months ago. And it paints a pretty good picture for us in how we manage dilution or the lack thereof for our shareholders.
Fantastic. So you already said that you want to finance Iron Creek, of course, and we have here the resource in the back. So maybe you can comment a little bit, because you just drilled that out and you want to do a second resource estimate, of course. But what does it look like?
Yeah, so we've looked, as I alluded to, we looked around the world. We looked in Australia and Sweden and Chile, U.S., Idaho. There is a historic mining operation there, 1902 to 68, and it was an important contributor to strategic stockpiles of cobalt when the U.S. had stockpiles. And now we've gone back into the camp, historic work from the 70s and 80s, and we found ourselves on an asset that had been somewhat developed, never mined, but Noranda Mining Company put 3 adits, so 3 tunnels, into this resource. We're into the high-grade zone. We're able to bulk sample it, look at the rocks, do metallurgical work. There was a historical resource that we worked off of, and so with the compilation and a lot of drilling of our own in very short time, we accomplished a ton of work. Maiden resource inferred demonstrates about 45 million pounds of cobalt in the ground on a first pass, and I think there's the tonnage potential either as a pit and even as an underground. This is what's kind of unique. A couple of high-grade zones, disseminated cobalt around it. We can treat this as a potentially open pitable or underground deposit. I think the tonnage potential here is an easy double with a lot more drilling, because every hole we're hitting is in mineralization. We've got a strike delineated at 500 meters. It continues on for another 500 meters. The depth, we've only gone down 150 meters, and now we're testing down to 300. So exciting times for us.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds really great, and a lot of work for you to do actually at 2019. But you also have the historic Canadian cobalt camp. Maybe 2 sentences on that, because that's also quite unique, right?
Yeah, it is unique. That's Canada's oldest mining camp. High grade. We're getting a lot of high grade, a lot of what I'd say smoke, and we got to find the fire. And there's potential there for what I would call a lower grade high tonnage, so a big open pit scenario. And we've made a lot of progress on that. But as a junior, we have to focus, and Iron Creek is so far advanced, and we've seen nothing like it in the world, candidly. And so this becomes optionality for our shareholders.
We'll like a secondary project, we would call it.
Yeah, we won't spend a lot of money on that next year. We're going to advance our most advanced asset and create value that way.
Definitely. So let's come shortly to, cobalt, we know it's for batteries, of course. So what does the EV market look like, the electric vehicle market? So it's set to take off, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're looking at today maybe 1.5% of the new vehicle sales are electric. So we're at that infancy.
Scratching
yeah, we're scratching the surface, exactly. And yet, cobalt production worldwide, half of cobalt produced today is going into lithium-ion batteries. Most of it are handhelds and our laptops and a little bit of cars, but we're going from a few grams in your iPhone to 5 to 10 kilos in an EV. And so the demand projection looks fantastic if you believe in the future of EVs, as we do. Yeah. It's a great drive, and we're almost cost parity. So the future is going to change. We got all the big auto companies are coming out with their models in the next couple of years. And many of your viewers, if you don't follow the space, we're on the cusp of a mobility revolution that's going to hit pretty hard.
Yeah, definitely. And we saw recently in the press also that maybe the cobalt content, like Tesla said already, we can reduce this by 60-70%, for example. But what does it mean still for the market? Because I think 48,000 tons are going into the market, and there's a nice projection of, by 2025, 2026, 195,000, maybe 200,000 tons.
That's right. You can do a 4x, and that's assuming substitution. Mm-hmm. So right now, the battery chemistries, the focus is not getting cobalt out of the battery. You can't today, and that's not going to happen in the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. So if you want to take a 10-year horizon on where cobalt is in the cathode, I'll tell you it's still there, but maybe you can cut the content in half again. And what does that do? Well, it drops the cost of the battery, because that's the most expensive raw material. It's also the rarest raw material. So I think it might facilitate faster penetration. And if you go from 1.5% to 3% penetration, you've already offset the decrease in cobalt content. So it's still a very bullish story.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic, great. Well, Trent, thank you very much for that really fast and energetic interview here.
Thank you.
And all the best for you. And we want to see some good drill results. And hopefully you can do one or the other deal with the refinery. That would be fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Trent Mell, the CEO of First Cobalt. And you heard it, the company has a lot of optionality here. They can bring the refinery into production. But most advanced is, of course, the Iron Creek project in Idaho. And there's also a very good production story for the next 2 to 3 years foreseeable. And I would say check out the company. I'm your host, Jochen Steiger, Commodity TV, in partnership with Dukascopy. Thanks for watching us. Bye-bye from Geneva.